To own a bike 150 years ago really was something quite special. It was probably the equivalent of owning a Rolls-Royce today. And there was no shortage of imagination in design. And things in 1987, it seems, just haven't changed. When the East Germans produced the first of the new breed of speed machine, designers raced ahead. Until about 8 years ago, this was the state of the art in Tour de France cycling, the regular diamond-shaped bicycle for use in all stages in the race. Now take a look how things have changed. This is the new bicycle now for all the time trial stages in the race, such as this afternoon's Prologue time trial. You can probably see the difference. It's totally aerodynamically designed. The sloping top tube here, the upturned handlebars to keep the rider with his regular racing position, the flattened spokes slicing through the air, the front wheel, in fact, 1 inch smaller than the back wheel here. And this itself was sheeted with graphite. Although the wheel is heavier, once it's rolling, it really does go quite quickly. The bicycle is shaped like an arrowhead, built for speed, because the Tour de France these days can be won by the fractions of a second, and this is the bike that might do the job. If you want to buy one at home, though, I'm afraid the price isn't quite so streamlined. It'll probably cost you in the region of $3,500. The near 4 miles Prologue time trial that opens the Tour de France is a short sprint, with each rider taking his turn. But if you miss your start time, you go when you can. Milan Jerko had set the target time, but then came a determined effort from rival Eastern Bloc rider, Poland's LECH PIASECKI. There are no Eastern Bloc teams in the race, but a handful of riders have permission to race in the West. PIASECKI, who won the World Amateur title in 1985, was traded to an Italian professional team for a supply of racing bikes to Poland. Now with the fastest time, he seemed a good investment. But the stars are still to go. Andy Hampsten from the United States. Fignon, the great French hope and twice a winner. Phil Liggett, the Australian, fighting back from injury. And Roche from Ireland, third 2 years ago. This is perhaps the most important tour ever for Phil Anderson. He's anxious to prove that he can come back after suffering from hereditary arthritic disease in his back. Last year was a tough one for the Australian, and there were many who said he would never race at this level again. But at least memories of a great career will help his return. In 1981, Anderson became the first Australian to wear the yellow jersey, and he finished 10th. He did it again in 1982, and this time he finished 5th. So 1983 was supposed to be his year, but he was reduced to the role of domestique, the popular Frenchman Pascal Simon. A victim of injuries and politics, he's hoping now to make his return. Anderson's 29, and time is running out. All of France is hoping for a return to form of Fignon this month. Like Anderson, Fignon has suffered a serious setback to his career. He's fought against a damaged Achilles tendon throughout 1985 after withdrawing from the Tour de France. Then in 1986, a broken collarbone was another setback. But this year, he has shown signs of full recovery, and the 26-year-old Parisian finished third in the Tour of Spain. Was the first Parisian to win the race in his own back garden of Paris. He did it in 1983 and 84. But after two such wins, he was to become another Tour statistic. As last year, he struggled behind the rest in the Pyrenees. He abandoned the race, saying he was sick. This year, Fignon will need the valued support of top team manager Phil Liggett. But it's Fignon now who hopes to turn a corner and see his career go back to the top. Anderson completes his time trial, and it has clearly hurt the Australian. He's also failed by just 23 seconds to match PIASECKI. Now it's Andy Hampsten's turn to enter the start house. While on the other side of the road, Fignon approaches the line. With the confidence drawn from last week's victory in the Tour of Switzerland, Hampsten makes ready. While Fignon's effort is almost over. But his time, 27 seconds behind, is not so good. A last lungful of air. And to a cheer, Hampsten launches into the race. After Greg LeMond gave the United States a first ever victory last year, Hampsten carries a great responsibility this time in LeMond's enforced absence. The 26 years old from North Dakota has had a meteoric rise to fame after winning the Tour of Switzerland for the first time last year. Hampsten is now on the American 7-11 team. But in last year's Tour de France, he was alongside Greg LeMond on the same French La Vie-Claire squad. Hampsten possesses the most wanted talent of all the ability to climb mountains and fast. He helped pave the way for Greg LeMond to win the Tour last year when he paced him in the Pyrenees, where LeMond moved to within 40 seconds behind the leader, Bernard Hinault. Hampsten finished fourth and won the white jersey of best newcomer in last year's Tour, but he became a star in his own right last week when he won the Tour of Switzerland for a second time. Hampsten's aim this year is to be the first American to win on an American team. But at the finish, there's about to be a new leader, as Prologue specialist Jelle Nijden from Holland sets the best time, and this will be his fourth Prologue victory of the season. Hampsten comes home with one of the best times of the top contenders for final victory. He's not really a time trial specialist, and he's anxious to prove to his opponents and himself he has the all-round talent to win the Tour. But his time this time is 20 seconds behind Nijden. The performances by Nijden, however, will not concern Hampsten because he can't climb well enough to win the Tour. But Stephen Roche certainly can, and he aims to win the Prologue. Roche turned professional in 1981 and won 10 major races. But since his third place in the Tour de France 2 years ago, he too has suffered setbacks through injury. But in Roche's case, no one doubts that he has fully returned to his best condition. But Roche is an Irishman now on an Italian team. Yet, last month he became the first Irishman to win the Tour of Italy, a race only 300 miles shorter than the Tour de France. And he did it despite aggression from his own team. 2 years ago, Roche heard all as Greg LeMond, an American on a French team, was ordered not to win the Tour de France and wait for Bernard Hinault, who was falling behind. Perhaps Roche learned then to look after number one. The start house is Jean-Francois Bernard, France's young rising star. But when the French look in the start house, they don't see Jean-Francois Bernard. They still see Bernard Hinault. Bernard finished 12th last year and admits he has still a lot to learn, and all France will watch his mistakes. Roche won the Tour of Italy in spite of hostility against him, But now, with a rare double in sight, he makes an almost perfect start and narrowly fails to take the lead in this opening time trial. Just Jean-Francois Bernard to finish. And his entourage, of course. Roche has made a supreme effort. There's nothing hurts more than the race of truth, and the clock never lies. Now it's Bernard's turn to finish, and the Frenchman has not disgraced himself. And in a last burst to the line, the Frenchman's time is only 9 seconds behind Neidem, who wins in his third Tour de France, his first ever stage of the race. LECH PIASECKI of Poland was second. And of the stars, Bernard didn't do too badly, but Andy Hampsten was only 20 seconds behind, Ron Kiefel 21. So as the crowd gathers round to see the first yellow jersey of 1987 presented, a special star appears. Rather overweight perhaps, but Bernard Hinault is still here. We'll be right back after this break.